What's up, YouTube? It's the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I'm back with another episode of the NBA preview. Now, for people out there who are wondering, what are my thoughts on the Carmelo Anthony trade? That means you're not subscribed because I already uploaded that video. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well, because I uploaded that video yesterday. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because due to that transaction, some of the teams on my power ranking definitely moved up, some moved down, and because of that, we now have the Brooklyn Nets ranked as the 27th team in the NBA next season. Now, when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets over the last 5 seasons, they definitely have been the laughingstock of the league, consistently spending millions of dollars on luxury tax, never being able to get into the lottery because they gave up all their draft picks, and not having a marquee player on their roster outside of Brook Lopez definitely hurt this organization. And hopefully things can turn around because Billy King has finally been removed from the team and they brought in Sean Marks as a general manager. Now, Sean Marks has the ridiculous task of turning lemons into lemonade, but so far he's done a fine job. He finally brought in some young talent along with some established players, but by far the biggest move that he has done is finally moved away from Brook Lopez, and in return he received Timothy Mozgov and D'Angelo Russell. And because of that, it's obviously going to be a great transition for our clip of the day when it comes to the summer of social media. Now, this right here isn't really nothing funny or cryptic, it's just D'Angelo Russell working out in the gym. And the reason why I had to select this video is because, as a Laker fan, I never saw this from D'Angelo. That's not to say that D'Angelo Russell never worked out in his free time, but that just means that I've never seen D'Angelo Russell actually work out and upload him working out to social media, which means that he's extremely motivated to prove a lot of his doubters wrong, and probably by far his biggest doubter, or at least the most public doubter, is Magic Johnson, from some of the criticism that he had for D'Angelo Russell over the summer, largely having to do with his leadership role on the team. However, when it comes to Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets, they really don't even care because they just need some young talent on the roster to kind of fill everything up and hopefully put some potential on the team that can make the fans more hopeful of the direction that the organization is heading into. But speaking of the roster, that's a great transition to look at our depth chart and some of the contracts for the Brooklyn Nets. So when it comes to the new signings, outside of Tyler Zeller, the organization really didn't do much whatsoever in the free agency when it comes to signing players, largely due to the fact that majority of the talent that they acquired over the last summer was more so through trades and actually signing players. Then when it comes to the overpaid players, we have Timothy Mozgov, who's going to be making over $15 million next year. And then we have Allen Crabbe, who's making $19 million. Now, I thought Timothy Mozgov was making a lot of money, but once I found out that Allen Crabbe was making $19 million, that is ridiculous for 2 reasons. One, if you look at Allen Crabbe's contract compared to other players who are getting paid roughly the same amount of money, it just doesn't make any sense that he's making $19.3 million next season when you have players such as Jeff Teague, who just signed a contract this last summer, who's only making $19 million, and then you have a player in Serge Ibaka, who again just signed his contract this last summer, who's making $20 million. Now, the second reason why this is so crazy, it all depends if Allen Crabbe starts or not, but if he doesn't start and Enes Kanter, depending on what the New York Knicks want to do, but if Enes Kanter is a starter, Allen Crabbe will be the highest paid bench player in the NBA next season. And then when it comes to our expiring contracts, the biggest name on this list that I have to point out is Sean Kilpatrick. But with that being said, let's go and transition into the actual depth chart itself. So in the backcourt, we have D'Angelo Russell along with Sean Kilpatrick. At 3, DeMarre Carroll. 4, Trevor Booker. And then finally, we have Mozgov rounding up the lineup. And then coming off the bench, the 3 players that I have to point out is Jeremy Lin, Allen Crabbe, and Hollis Jefferson. When it comes to Jeremy Lin, a lot of people are speculating that he actually will be in the starting lineup, and hopefully that works out. But in my opinion, I believe Jeremy Lin would be better utilized coming off the bench, largely due to the fact that they need someone coming off the bench to kind of aid the second unit, because as you clearly can see, none of the players on the bench can really create their own shot. It's all going to have to go through Jeremy Lin. So you can spend some time with Jeremy Lin and D'Angelo Russell on the floor with one another, and I actually do believe in short spurts that it would work out with both of them on the court with one another, because both of them are really effective off ball. But for the most part, I would definitely like to see Jeremy Lin man and control the second unit. And then when it comes comes to Allen Crabbe, he's been pointing out over the last couple months that he was by far one of the most consistent catch and shoot players from behind the arc, shooting well over 40%. And congratulations to you, because you are completely correct. However, you still only scored around 10 points last season, and I would assume that a lot of that has to do with the fact that players such as CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard definitely were drawing in more attention offensively than you possibly was yourself. So I don't necessarily know how productive Allen Crabbe is going to be. And then finally, we have Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. The reason why I have him backing up the power forward and at the small forward position is because I feel like he'd be better utilized running that small ball lineup because of his inability to consistently knock down a 3-ball. But also, to his credit, he was extremely active on the boards last season. Towards the end of the year, the last 25 games, he was consistently grabbing 2 offensive rebounds in very limited minutes. So I do believe he'd be better utilized running that small ball 4 lineup, more so than backing up the 3, because they're definitely going to need as much spacing as possible. Now, the reason why I bring up floor spacing and why it's going to be so important for this organization, it may actually be the breaking point to figure out how good they may be next season, is because they lost Brook Lopez. Even though Brook Lopez never really put up the gaudy numbers, especially when it came to grabbing rebounds, he definitely was probably one of the more consistent players in the NBA, especially when it comes to his ability to score 20 points. So because of this, his organization is obviously looking for someone to come in, create their own shot, who can also play make and open up the floor for everyone else, which brings us to D'Angelo Russell, which is our spotlight player of the day. So D'Angelo Russell is a 6'5" point guard who spent his entire career playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, and when it comes to his success or his lack of success, many people are split on who exactly to blame. Some people are being much more optimistic about D'Angelo Russell and where he could potentially be in the next several years, claiming that the reason why he wasn't that productive with the Los Angeles Lakers has more so to do with the fact that they were more so concerned about Kobe Bryant than D'Angelo Russell when Kobe Bryant was retiring. And then last year, D'Angelo Russell was suffering from injuries, and that on top of the fact that D'Angelo Russell and his playing style didn't necessarily benefit the way that the Los Angeles Lakers wanted to run, D'Angelo Russell quite simply just wasn't on the right team. And then you have some people who are a bit more pessimistic, and unfortunately this is where I lean as well, who will make the argument that last year D'Angelo Russell definitely had the opportunity to be the player that we all expected him to be, and he just wasn't that. And with that being said, I do want to end it on this. When it comes to this roster, there's a lot of really good players on this team, or at least players that have promise and they know their role and they're really good at one or two things. The problem with that is all of those players, DeMarre Carroll, Allen Crabbe, Sean Kilpatrick, Timothy Mozgov, they need star players around them to create their own shots or make it at least easier on them to be efficient on the offensive end. So when it comes to D'Angelo Russell, if he's not a more efficient scorer and if he's not a threat on the offensive end, defenses may not actually respect his game and they won't leave the shooters open so he can get easy looks not only for himself but also for everyone else on the team, which is a huge reason why I put this team down so low, because I just don't think D'Angelo Russell can create his own shot along with everyone else's shot on a consistent basis. But with that being said, let's go ahead and go into the Twitter question of the day. What would be a successful season for the Brooklyn Nets? When it comes to expectations, certain teams have different expectations based off of where they are at in their organization timeline. And when it comes to Brooklyn, the only thing that they need to understand is clarification. That's all they need. They need clarification on who's on the roster and what is the right step in the right direction. They could trade Jeremy Lin, they could trade DeMarre Carroll, they can trade all these players all they want to. However, they don't understand what they're going to need to get in return to best benefit the roster moving forward if they don't understand how good of a player D'Angelo Russell is. And I know some people being so optimistic that they could possibly be in the playoffs and then D'Angelo Russell be an all-star. I don't know about all that. But again, at the end of the day, a successful season for the Brooklyn Nets is clarification. Even if they end the season and D'Angelo Russell put up the exact same numbers that he did last year, that's also fine as well, because at that point, they will then know who exactly D'Angelo Russell is. They will know what they need to add around D'Angelo Russell and consistently build the roster to where it needs to be. But jumping to conclusions and pulling the trigger on some of these players before we even figure out who they are is what ended up putting them in a bad situation in the beginning of this debacle with the Billy King saga. So definitely don't do that moving forward. And with all that being said, people, let me know what you think about the Brooklyn Nets in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about D'Angelo Russell. And also make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well. But with all that being said, I will see you all later. Peace.